Hey everybody, Star 6 Wars 1 here, and welcome to another anime review. For this one, we take a look back at a series I said I hated for a long time, Neon Genesis Evangelion. Now, I decided to rewatch this anime because of, after looking back on some of the other anime I've done to look back on, and seeing how my opinions have changed on them, I want to see if my opinions on NGE have changed. Also, a rewatch of the end of Eva beforehand helped that decision. Now, did I still hate it, or has my opinion of the series changed for the better? Well, let's find out. First up, the story. The story is about a 14-year-old boy named Shinji Ikari, who is asked by his father and the organization he runs called NERV to pilot a mech called Evangelion Unit 1 to defend humanity against the monstrous angels who threaten mankind's existence. That's at least how the story starts. As the story goes along, it becomes something far more than the premise I just explained. It becomes much more intricate and brilliant than what it began with. The anime tackles themes of sex, death, depression, escapism, and acceptance, and does them all great. It has foreshadowing for the future events of the show, and does them with expertise and care, for the most part at least. It builds not only a believable world, but a well-made one at that. If I was to name one problem with the story, I'd say its pacing at times could be a little bit better handled than it was, especially in certain areas, but otherwise, it's a wonderful story. For the characters, let's start with the main character, Shinji Ikari. Shinji is a very weak, cowardly, and insecure person who's more or less forced to pilot Unit 1. He has a strong hate for his father for abandoning him 10 years prior to the story. He has a habit of running away, but comes back every time. It's kind of like a boomerang in that regard. Shinji is one of the most fascinating main characters of any anime ever. I've only scratched the surface of what he is. Many call him a pussy or a coward, but honestly, despite what others say, I really liked him. Next, let's go with Rei Ayanami. Rei is the very quiet and near emotionless pilot of Unit 0. Unlike Shinji, she seems to be on good terms with Gendo, Ikari, Shinji's father, and performs her duties without question or running away. Though like Shinji, she is an extremely fascinating character with a lot of mystery to her. Though why that is spoiler territory. She is a great character overall, even if I can't talk about her that much due to spoilers. Now let's talk about Asuka Langley Soryu. Asuka is the fiery and conceited pilot of Unit 2. She believes she is the best Eva pilot of the three, and unlike Shinji, pilots Eva 2 by choice. She is very quick to anger, especially when Shinji is involved. And like the two I talked about earlier, she's an extremely fascinating character, especially when you learn her backstory, which I won't spoil here. She's a great character, though I can see why some may not like her that much. The last individual character I want to talk about is Misato Katsuragi. Misato is the tactical commander of NERV and current guardian of Shinji and later Asuka. When on job, she is a cool, smart, calculating, and determined commander. However, when she's off duty, she's a loud, fun-loving person and a bit of a slob. As the show goes along, she becomes a fascinating character much like the others, and her backstory is, again, one I won't spoil here, but is really, really great. Overall, she's a great character, and one I enjoy seeing every time. The side characters can be just as fascinating as the main cast, with their personalities and emotional issues. Though I'll admit, not all of them are like this, and some of them are really lack development. The cast of Eva are very damaged people. All have emotional issues, even if it's not present in the beginning of the show. These are some of the most fascinating and well-written characters in all of anime, excluding some parts of the side cast, but overall, just a great cast of characters. The animation for the show is done by Studio Gainax, who is well known for such shows as Gurren Lagann, Gunbuster, Penny and Stocking, and of course, Eva. The show originally aired in 1995, so the animation looks really impressive for its time, and some of the better looking animation moments still stand out. The character design is very distinctive and well animated, the backgrounds look amazing and well thought out, and the designs of the Evas are amazing. However, I won't deny that the animation has its problems. It tends to reuse old animation and does have a decent amount of still frames. Some of these may have been intentional, but others may have been an honest mistake due to money issues. However, for its time, it looks really good. The OST was done by Shiro Sagasu, and I apologize if I pronounced his name wrong, who also did music for the Eva Rebuild films, Karen Kano, Bleach, and the Berserk movie trilogy. The OST to Neon Genesis Evangelion is amazing, with a wide range of emotions in its music, including the very laid-back Misato, to the very action-packed decisive battle, to the ominous Do You Love Me, to the somber Sorrow of Losing. The list goes on. Another thing I give the show credit for is it knows when music isn't needed and lets the scene speak for itself without music, which is a huge plus. The opening is really good and very fitting of the show, and its lyrics definitely accompany that. While I'm not a fan of the ending theme, I can see why some may like it. I'm just not a fan of it, and honestly, I don't like it a lot. Now, should you watch this sub or dub? The dub isn't terrible, though it takes a bit for it to become decent. But I was honestly thinking the sub is far superior to the dub in this case. I feel it captures the characters better than the dub did. It's ultimately up to you whether you watch Neon Genesis Evangelion sub or dub, but if you want my opinion, I'd stick with the sub. Neon Genesis Evangelion is a fantastic anime. It has some of the most interesting and thought-provoking characters in anime. The story is very complex and well written. When the animation is at its best, it's some of the best of its time, and the music is extremely well made and has variety. However, it's not a flawless anime with only an average dub and some limited animation in some areas. Also, a complete viewing of the show you really need to see End of Evo, which can be seen as either a flaw or a good thing depending on your perspective. However, it is a great anime that I highly recommend most anime fans. In fact, I actually would say that if you haven't seen it, for most anime fans, I'd say give it at least one watch. Now, I think you should see this anime if you want a complex and thought-provoking story and characters with a great OST. But if you're looking for an anime that is simple to understand and doesn't have complex themes, then I'd skip the anime or at least be wary of that. If you want alternative anime recommendations, I point you towards Razapon, which is very similar to Eva but does have a lot of things that are different in it as well. I'd also recommend another Gainax anime, Gurren Lagann, which is another mech anime show that, while far less complex than NGE, has its own merits and is a ton of fun to watch. Anyways, that's all from me. This has been Star 6 Wars 1, and I'll see you guys next time.